Okay, so the method I'm using here, it's called kick sampling, and we use this to see what invertebrates are living on the riverbed. We've taken this method and trained all of our river search volunteers on how to use it, and as a result they're able to send us data back from all across Surrey about what the health of our rivers is like. Okay, right, let's see what the results are. Well, there's a lot of life in there, so maybe we should take this back over to the video microscope and get Ben to have a closer look for us.
Hi guys, so we've got our video microscope here to have a look at some of the creatures in really close-up detail, so you can see all of their cool adaptations to aquatic life and how they go about their day-to-day life in the rivers. So the first one we're going to have a look at is one of the 3 types of mayfly that you'd find when you're dipping in a river. This one is a true mayfly, Ephemera danica, for those of us who are a bit more scientific. But these guys are pretty cool. So like all mayflies, they get their name because they should come out as adults during the month of May. Most mayflies only spend 1 or 2 days as adults. They don't even have mouth parts. They spend all of that time laying eggs for the next generation, and then they die without even eating. So they do have quite a lot of cool adaptations for living under the water. The most noticeable thing on all of them is that they have these feathery or leaf-like gills on some of the other types, which they use to help them breathe under the water. They breathe oxygen that's already held in the water, so the gills flap about, getting the water to flow over them so that they can take all the oxygen out they need to breathe. They tend to be really good indicators of water quality because, like we said, they need oxygen in the water, so nice, happy, healthy water is going to be where you find these guys because they'll have plenty of oxygen to breathe while they're swimming around.
As Ben mentioned, this species is particularly sensitive to pollution, so because of this, they're a real good indicator for us of picking up pollution incidents. We have a whole team of volunteers who are out across Surrey's rivers and then monitoring on a monthly basis for these species. So if we suddenly see a big drop in mayfly numbers at a particular spot, we know that potentially there's been a pollution issue that has gone through there.
So the next one we've got here is another kind of mayfly. Although it looks totally different, you can tell it's still mayfly because all mayflies have 3 tails. So you can see over there on the screen that it's got those 3 tails pointing towards Glenn. And it's only got 5 legs. It should have 6 because it's an insect. This one is called a
HeptaJenny, this one, flat-bodied. I call it the muscle man though, because if you look at the arms, huge arms in comparison to its body size. This is because it has to cling onto stones in very fast-flowing currents. So this is normally where we find it, where we've got a fast-flowing stream. We'll get these guys clinging onto rocks. They'll be grazing the algae on those rocks.
So the last mayfly, just like the others, should have 6 legs, 3 tails, and the same gills. These ones are much more leaf-like than the feathery ones we saw on the other mayfly. This is a type of mayfly called an olive, and these gills, you can see the veins running through them. So all of those veins inside it are just increasing the surface area, so it's more effective at taking oxygen out of the water.
So you'd be forgiven for thinking this one is a mayfly because again we've got the 3 tails, but there's a little bit more to this one. So Ben, can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, confusingly we have got 3 tails and 6 legs, but actually this time the tails have another purpose other than just being tails. If you zoom in on them, if it stays still, you should be able to see that it has veins in its tails just like we saw in the gills of the mayfly, because this is a damsonfly and it uses its tails as the gills to help it breathe underwater. So it will have those flapping around in the water, taking in the oxygen that it needs.
Okay, so the next group we're going to talk about is the caddisflies. Now we've got two in that group, that's the case caddis and the caseless caddis. And behind me here you can see the caseless caddis. Not a particularly strong swimmer, but it doesn't need to be because the habitat this will be living in is all the aquatic vegetation. It'll hook itself onto the floating mats that we see in the river. And it's got 2 little hooks that come off the back end of it that it can use to clasp on it. It'll be eating the vegetation, the algae on that, things that are passing by, and it even creates almost like a spider's web to help it catch particles that are travelling down the river.
The other kind of caddisfly use their spit as glue basically, and they pull together little bits of debris in the pond or river and they're able to make a home for themselves out of that. It's a hollow tube where the insect will be living in the middle, surrounding itself with either bits of grass, bits of twig, sometimes shells, even with snails still in them. They use all kinds of different things. And actually each species of caddisfly uses a different style to build its house with. Another thing you often find in ponds and rivers are beetles. There's 400,000 kinds of beetle in the world. They're one of the most diverse groups of insects, and we have quite a lot in the UK as well. These two are riffle beetles, so they're holding on to a piece of vegetation just like they'd be doing in the river. And the best thing I think about these guys is that they breathe through their bumps, like lots of things in the water, but in particular beetles have these bubble bottoms. You can see it works just like a scuba tank. They come to the surface, take in a gasp of oxygen through something called a spiracle, and then when they go back under the water, they keep that as a little bubble so they can keep breathing just like a scuba. This is one of my favourite things that you can find in water. It's called a water scorpion, and it gets its name for obvious reasons. It's got two scythe-like pincers at the front of its face, and it's got a long tail at the back. However, this isn't a scorpion at all. It's actually an insect. It's only got 6 legs instead of 8, and you'd be forgiven for thinking it only has 4, because it only has 4 things that look like legs. Its two front pincers there are actually legs that have evolved into sort of grabby claws to help it catch its prey. The 7th leg, or the tail, is not a leg at all. It's another spiracle, just like the beetle had, and it's a long snorkel where the creature will reach to the surface to take a breath of air. The other cool thing about these guys is the way they hunt. Apart from those nasty looking claws, they've also got this weird straw-like thing, just like all other true bugs do, in the middle of their face. So what they'll do with that is they'll stab it into some poor unsuspecting creature, squirt in some digestive juices, and slurp out the guts of whatever it's caught. So they're pretty nasty predators.
So Surrey Wildlife Trust, we couldn't protect the species that you've seen today without the help of a whole team of volunteers, and there's many ways for you to get involved. We have our River Search project where you can get down to the river and actually monitor some of the species that live on there and send us the data back. So check out our website for details on that. Without the support of members, we wouldn't be able to carry out these projects. So if you can join us as a member, every penny of that can go towards helping us to actually deliver in better conservation to boost biodiversity on Surrey's rivers.
I really hope you've had a great time seeing some of the cool creatures that you can find in rivers and ponds with us. You can do loads more of this with Surrey Wildlife Trust by coming along to our open days, members days, school visits, or here at our Nowwood Educational Nature Reserve. We've also got tons of adult learning courses for the other parts of the family, so do come along, have a look on our website and see what we've got to offer.